There we go. Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me, of course, the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. How you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing great today. We were talking earlier, it's been a busy week, and it's only Wednesday, so things are good though.
I know there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, all over the place, but especially Tennessee, of course.
Well, why would it be especially Tennessee? What what
Holy,
what 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 is always going on, especially in Tennessee, that is crazy?
I don't know those
You
those
wake up
redneck
every day. Yes, you wake
those
up every
rednecks
day.
down there in
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee. Yeah.
Yeah, Tennessee is a different place altogether. No kidding.
Ibsen.
Ibsen, how are you? You know,
Hello,
one thing
Ibsen.
I did last week, and Jason,
Hello, Jason.
morning. I got to go to Top Guy Weekend last week in Hazel Green, Alabama.
Oh, I
Did a
was going to
fantasy
ask you.
camp, yeah, with
Nice.
Conrad, and saw Eric Bischoff, David Crockett,
Nice.
Doug Dillinger, um, Dirty Dick, one of the financial guys from WCW came in and had a blast, man. We did a short 2 hour fantasy camp for all the people that came and got to listen to Eric and David, Doug Dillinger, and Dirty Dick talk.
Was it Dick Cheatham? Dirty Dick Cheatham?
Dick Cheatham, yes.
Wow. Holy
You know
moly.
Dick?
Oh, well, I know of him, but I don't know him, though.
Well,
Yeah.
what do you know about Dick Cheatham?
Just that he was a financial guy for WCW. If you ever read the Nitro book, which is a great book by Guy Evans, he's highly featured in that one. I believe
I
he's
did.
actually interviewed for that book.
I did not read that book, but sounds like something I still won't read. But anyway, no, he was a very nice guy, and we had a blast, man. It was a good time. Good time.
Was Brother Brucey there?
Nope, no, it
Oh,
was not.
wow. Wow. Damn. It seemed like a lot of the Conrad guys were there. Obviously, he's the original Conrad guy. Just pretty cool idea, though. Awesome concept.
Yeah, they had a great deal. Rocket City Wrestling had a nice building, and very impressed. Had a great time.
Ibsen says, ready to learn from the best trainer who actually trained Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I know that is true.
Well, well, I hope so, Ibsen. I hope every time you tune in, we learn something new.
Phil, hello, Phil. Good evening.
Phil,
Doing my best. Grab them cakes, which is a
yes,
great song by JYD.
I like that song.
Now, they say he didn't have a good singing voice. I kind of disagree. I thought he had a great singing voice.
Well, I think that's all a matter of opinion, and I thought he had a great singing voice too. But most of the time, I thought Wendell Cooley had a great singing voice, and then I found out differently when I watched the tape back.
What's
I
he been
forgot.
up to? Oh my God, Wendell Cooley!
Yeah,
Wow,
I have no idea, but we did a special concert, and or the good guys, the baby faces, did a concert in Tennessee, not Tennessee, in Alabama, years ago, and we snuck in, and we were listening, and I thought, well, Cooley's not that bad. Then I watched it back, and it's like, well, I think I just might have had one too many Jack Daniels that night, and
yes, there you go. Yep.
yeah, yeah, Howling at the Moon, and anything would have sounded great. So,
Can Dr. Tom stand for a second? We want to see his shirt. Really? What is the shirt?
well, this is a Tennessee Legend shirt.
Oh,
I'm not sure who Mary is. Uh, Marcy Ward, Elvis, Peyton, Dolly, Jack, and Davy. Tennessee Legends.
nice. Is Dr. Tom selling those shirts? I'll buy one to put money in that pocket.
Oh, I'm not selling these shirts. No, no, no. I got this. Actually, my wife got this from years ago, uh, and I didn't feel like putting on a JPWA shirt for the show tonight, so I just wanted to wear this one.
Nice. Tennessee Legends, for sure.
Yes,
Elvis Presley, huge wrestling fan. So,
yes, and of course, Memphis boy.
yep. Oh, yeah.
So I'll be from Texas till the day I die, but I live in Tennessee now. I hang my hat in Tennessee, so I got to go with the Tennessee Legends these days.
Barbara, hello, Dr. Tom. So good to see you.
Barbara, you're not late. We're late.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You were a big part of the Tennessee Texas feud back in the day.
Yes, I was. I certainly was. And Texas won.
And you love Eric Embry to this day because of that.
I do love Eric Embry to this day. Not because of that, but just because he's Eric Embry.
Now, very, very interesting topic tonight. We want to talk about Dark Side of the Ring a little bit, but we really want to talk about Junkyard Dog. And I was actually looking it up to see if you wrestled him. I couldn't find it, but you told me you did wrestle him in Mid South.
One night when I first started wrestling in 1979, Boyd Pierce was the announcer in Houston. He was the commentator for Mid South Wrestling, Shreveport TV, on Saturday mornings. He would drive after Houston wrestling to Shreveport straight through, and then do the TV and whatever else he had to do. But one Friday night, I followed Boyd after the show, after the match, about 11:15. We headed out. And we stopped and ate at Lee's Inn on Highway 59 or Interstate 59. And we had dinner, and then we got on the road. And that was the night that the guy came up behind us, and then he went off the bridge and died, and Highway to Hell came on. I'll never forget that, man. That's over 40 years ago, and I'll never forget that trip. But for a couple reasons, once we got to Shreveport, I thought I'd be able to, take a shower, rest, relax, all that stuff. I was realizing, no, these guys are getting up early, or some of them haven't even been to bed yet, like us. And we had to go in, and you did like 4 tapings. And one of the guys I wrestled that day was Junkyard Dog, but I wasn't Tom Prichard. I was Tom Price. So, and Dog went out. I got slaughtered, and he was carrying a wheelbarrow at the time. And I don't know if it was an engine block, but it was something like an engine block. And he put me in the wheelbarrow and put the engine block on me and pushed me through these double doors and just left me there in the wheelbarrow. And I waited about 5 minutes before I did anything, because I thought somebody would come back and get me or tell me what to do. Anyway, after 5 minutes, it seemed like 5 minutes. Could have been shorter, might have been longer. Finally, I realized nobody's going to come get me. So I gingerly took that engine off of me, or whatever it was. I think it'd be too heavy to have an engine, but whatever it was he set on me, I took it off and left it on the floor, and had to find my way back in this maze of the TV studio. Because first time I'd ever been there, I'm nervous as hell. I don't know what's going on. But Dog was a good guy, and I got to know him later on in years, and we always got along, always.
Gotta love some JYD. He, I don't know, something about him. He's so charismatic, so great. But was he great to wrestle to, or like how was he in the ring?
No, that day on our TV match, a squash match, he's not going to give me anything, and he's going to have to lay it in, and he did, but it didn't hurt me. And I don't know that I ever worked with him again, but I did cross paths with him many, many times, and he was charismatic, and he did know how to control a crowd, and he had so much personality. When Michael Hayes blinded Dog, I didn't get a chance to see Dark Side last night, but I think they probably covered the Michael Hayes Freebird incident with the hair cream, and
Yes,
and how hot it was, and people wanting to shoot Michael and kill Michael. And
yep.
Was Michael on Dark Side?
No,
Did
but
he get comments?
they showed that clip.
Okay. Well, I mean, Louisiana was a crazy place anyway. And the Freebirds, I've yet to see anybody replicate or duplicate what they did, personality-wise, charisma-wise as well, because they were great heels, and they knew how to be natural, and they knew how to get heat. So Dog was the top babyface at the time, and what a better guy to get heat on than him. There was no one better.
Amazing too, because as the story goes, and they showed it on Dark Side, he obviously is blind, quote unquote blind, so he can't deflect the guy who has the gun. He's about to shoot Michael Hayes, so he's like, "Shit, do I break kayfabe or do I let this guy get murdered?"
Right.
Like, holy crap! Yeah,
Right. That's a testament to not only how popular Dog was, but how evil the Freebirds were. And man, it's a time that we'll never get back. It'll never come back to that again. I say that now. Watch, years, more years down the road when we're not here anymore, and things have changed. I don't know, but I do realize that there comes along that once in a lifetime, like the Von Erichs and Freebirds and Dog and Freebirds, and the common denominator was the Freebirds. They knew how to get heat, and you gave them that top baby face, everybody believed in, that kick-ass guy, and now he's vulnerable. He can't see, may not ever see his baby, may not ever see his son grow up. I mean, what great storytelling.
crazy because the fans bought a hook, line, and sinker. I mean, what an awesome story.
Well, that was the way, yeah, that was the way Bill Watts did things back then. He did want people to believe it, and you had to go out and be real and add realism to them, to everything you did. And it was that time in the business where everything was coming together like that.
Chris Morale, that is it. I want to talk to Tom. I'm guessing that's the old reference to I want to talk to Tom.
That's the old reference to getting my ass hung.
Yes,
Yeah.
a great storyline with you and Dirty White Boy there. Yes.
Yeah.
Scorch, a friend of mine saw Junkyard Dog in a KFC. Oddly enough, JYD was wearing his collar and chain over his street clothes. He lived the gimmick.
Well, back in those days, everybody lived the gimmick, and especially in Louisiana, because that was all you had time for. You were traveling 3,000 miles a week, and I've done that loop. And it was great if you love the business and you love the just you're traveling to get in the ring. You're traveling, you're on the roads because you lived for that moment in the ring. And JYD was so over, I'm sure he thought about it. I'm not sure, but I would imagine Bill Watts might have even told him, use that chain, wear the chain, be the dog. I remember a story with Kevin Sullivan and Mark Lewin were in Tampa working out in the gym, and they were doing the let's say the devil thing, but it was never said. They never said the devil. They never said hell or Satan or things like that. But Mark told Kevin that the guys in the gym were saying, "Oh, look at that! They're not real. They're just playing." And so the next day, Mark and Kevin started working out in their robes. Their ceremonial robes and doing the third eye and all that stuff. So it's not unheard of, and it would make perfect sense to be the Junkyard Dog 24/7 in Louisiana. He was over, man.
Barbara wants to know, please ask Dr. Tom just how over he was in New Orleans, as few of the Freebirds did get a lot of heat.
Well, we just mentioned that. We mentioned that there was a man who wanted to shoot Michael, and and I wanted to shoot Michael a few times, but I didn't have a gun. But yeah, New Orleans was a rough town. New Orleans was crazy. I saw things in New Orleans that I saw other places too, but it was a different time, different place, different culture. If anybody there even tried to nail one of the heels or one of the boys or do something like that, they had security on them in a heartbeat, and they made sure that you understood this was not looked upon fondly to try and reach out and be a part of the action. That's what I'm trying to say.
Ibsen wants to know, were you there when his daughter gave his WWF induction speech in 2004 in New York?
I certainly was. Yes, I certainly was there. And she was very nice. Very nice lady. That's about it.
Did you know she passed away?
I did not know she passed away.
Some sort of heart valve failure. Yeah. She was only
Wow.
31 when she passed away. I'm not sure how many years ago it was, but she was only 31.
Well, she was a very nice lady when I met her, but I was there. Yeah.
That was a stacked Hall of Fame that year. Almost too stacked. They almost should have spread the guys out a little bit. They had all these awesome guys: Harley Race, Superstar,
Superstar.
Ventura,
Yeah.
Junkyard. That might be the best Hall of Fame.
Well, it's definitely one of them because, it was stacked.
Morocco, I think, was on that one, wasn't he? Like, holy moly!
Yeah, I don't remember who all went in. I remember Superstar because we had some issues getting him there, and he had to
Oh,
go to the
really?
hospital. Yeah, he had to go to the hospital. I think the day before he was getting sick, and um, went to the hospital, but he came back to be inducted.
This is the 2004 class. This is nuts. So it's Morocco, Valentine, Harley Race, Jesse Ventura, Junkyard Dog, Sergeant Slaughter, Superstar Billy Graham, Tito Santana, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Big John Studd, and Morocco, I think I mentioned first, and Pete Rose. So, geez,
So you had 11 people. I
we
mean, yeah,
stacked. Yeah.
yeah, incredible.
They probably regret that because they could have been spreading those like each guy could have been a headliner. Ventura could have been a
Well,
headliner.
who was
Superstar,
the headliner
Slaughter.
that night? Was it Superstar?
Technically, Ventura was last.
Ventura. Oh, God,
Yeah.
that's right, because his son gave the speech.
Yeah, man,
Right?
loaded. Yeah, and even if they had WrestleMania down in New Orleans, you could have had the JYD be the
Right.
the big cat, if you
Well,
will, for the Hall of Fame.
yeah. Well, Dog wasn't there to accept it, so they had to revolve
Right.
around
Yeah.
it. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Where were you when you heard the news of his passing?
Whew. I don't remember. I honest to God don't remember where I was. How long has it been?
So June 1st, 1998, he passed away. He was only 45 years old, and he died of a car accident.
Right. Died in a car accident. So I would have been in Stanford at that time, but I don't know. Honest to God, I don't remember where I was physically um, for that, except I would have been in Connecticut.
Definitely, you were in WWF, possibly training some guys in '98.
Probably.
Which was a good question here. Doing my best. I enjoyed JYD for the same reason I liked Jimmy Valiant. They brought a lot of fun.
And that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, he connected with the people, he connected with the fans, and you could tell he was having a good time. He was a good guy to be around. He was a good guy to have fun with, and that's what he brought to it. That's what you're supposed to bring to it. Have it where everybody is having fun.
Where would he be a better fit, Smoky Mountain or USWA? He actually was in the USWA for a while.
Right, right. Well, I think USWA, because it ran weekly and had consistent towns, I think Dog would fit better in USWA.
Yeah, he was actually USWA champion.
Yeah, makes
in
sense.
the '90s. Yeah, I think you had just left. I want to say, and he
No,
came back in, or
I was there when he was in Memphis.
okay.
So yeah, I was there when he was there a few times. We went to the gym a couple times together. So I do remember picking him up and taking him where he needed to go.
I'm not sure why he wasn't in Smoky Mountain. Right? Kind of could have made sense.
Well, he could have, but I think the question was where would he fit better, and I think he'd probably be better doing
USWA.
those weekly towns. Yeah.
What did Cornette think of JYD? I knew he was obviously all over that documentary, talking very high praise of him
Oh,
yesterday.
I think Jim. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jim loved the Dog. He was making money for everybody. He was hell of a performer, hell of a worker. So I'm sure Jim loved him.
Going back to his Hall of Fame induction in 2004, here's a good question. How did 11 people get in and Dr. Tom was not one of them? That's just a travesty of justice. Wow, I kind of agree.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the nice sentiments and all, but it's not the way it works.
Do you think that he would have been a good fit in ECW with the chain and doing hardcore matches?
I, honest to God, think Dog would have fit in anywhere he went because he was a draw. He had that connection with people wherever he went. He knew how to connect, and he knew how to get over. He was a star. He looked the part. He had that charisma. He was the Junkyard Dog, and but I think ECW would have done some tremendous things with him had they had the opportunity.
Did the Sheik rat out JYD when he tested positive? He said, "What about JYD? He was doing it with me." Did the Sheiky Baby get JYD in trouble? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think Sheiky Baby just tried to, and Dog probably got tested positive too and didn't say anything about it. So I really don't know. I wasn't there at that time, but I'm just surmising that I could see the Iron Sheik say, "Oh, I test positive. That's good, right?" No, no. Well, what about them? They all do the same thing. Yeah, I could see it.
Magazine Retriever, hello. He says JYD trained wrestlers Jazz and Rodney Mack.
Well, he did a hell of a job if he did. I like Rodney Mack and I like Jazz.
Spooky Mulder says, cool, the good doctor shooting, live, shooting, if you will, right now.
Are we shooting? Well, I'm always shooting.
Shoot from the hip. Chris Morale, how in the world did you manage to stay out of trouble and stay out of the way? I think it's a miracle. Do you have any survivor's remorse?
As far as I'm not sure what that means. I did. I did get in trouble, and I was in the way a lot of times. That's why I'm not in the Hall of Fame, and that's why I'm not there today, probably. But no, I just to go off track here for a second. I got in a lot of trouble throughout my life and my career, but can't dwell on the past. You just got to keep looking forward. I'm looking in the windshield, not looking in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is JYD the one who discovered Arn Anderson in the locker room and said, "Here's the next Arn Anderson brother right here"? Is that true?
I don't know if that's true or not. I thought it was Flair or somebody who came down and saw Arn and figured and thought he looked like Ole and the rest of them. So I had always heard it was Ric Flair who made the connection, but it could have been Dog because I don't really know. Dog
was money, no doubt. Yes,
everywhere he went. I mean, he was part of the first the Rock and Wrestling Connection, the cartoon.
Oh yeah,
and he played a big part in it. He was, in the later stages of his career, but he was still a character, still he still had star power. So when he came to WWE, they featured him, and he got over regardless.
I'm always amazed that everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe this guy didn't get the big push, or this guy." And that was even said last night on the doc, like, "Oh, I can't believe JYD didn't get the big push." No one's getting the bigger push over Hogan. There's no way you can make as much money as he, and be as popular. So he had a perfect place on the card in WWF to me, anyway, as a upper mid card babyface.
Well, yeah, and nobody knows the circumstances or what was going on. He was probably a little heavier than he needed to be.
Yeah.
And, there's other things that probably played into it. But I don't know why anybody would certainly sabotage a star who could make money. Yeah, it makes no sense to me.
They were talking about how much money he made off the action figure. It was like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, crazy how much money. And I know even the heels were saying, like Iron Sheik and stuff, saying they made like $100,000 or $80,000. Like they were talking about. So JYD, huge babyface, how much money he made off the toys is crazy.
Yeah, back then everybody was making that kind of.
How Hillbilly Jim was saying, like, he got a huge check, and
Right.
obviously he was in the set with Hogan.
Right.
So I mean, God knows how many of those sold, because I know
Yeah.
that's the one I bought when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Those two
Different
together.
time, different place.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got Hogan and Hillbilly Jim. So I wonder who got the most money out of that 2-pack.
uh, Ibsen says Tom should headline the Hall of Fame. Wow, he wants me and him to be first row.
Yeah. That'd be great. It's a great idea, Ibsen. I'll hand that in. I'll write that and put it in the suggestion box.
Wow, Mulder says he got to dance in the ring with JYD after he beat Bundy in '86. He'll never forget it.
Awesome. See,
Wow.
those are memories you don't forget, and that's what WWE does, and that's what the wrestling business is supposed to do is create memories and put smiles on people's faces. But as a kid growing up, um, when we first started watching wrestling in El Paso, it was on Monday night, so we couldn't go. I think we went maybe 3 times when we lived in El Paso, and then when we finally moved to Houston. Wrestling was on Friday nights, and I'll never forget those moments that I got to, go down to the ring before I started working there, before I started working with Paul Bosch, and got my foot in the door. But you go down to the ring and you could get autographs. You put your program out in the corner, and the guy would take your program, sign it, give it back to you. But just the excitement of being at a live show and getting to dance in the ring afterwards, oh my God, that's awesome.
Man, he was a pretty good dancer too, JYD.
Yeah. Of course he is. Of course he was.
The king of Kingsport, Bo James. Sorry,
Bob
I'm late.
James. Bob James, you're late.
Hello, a gentleman.
There you go.
Can you teach that kind of charisma, or is it something they have naturally? Obviously, JYD, not Bo James. Talking about JYD.
No, Bo has enough charisma. No, I think charisma is something you either have or you don't, and you have to love it, and you have to have that. Uh, it's something 24/7, and you've got to be driven. And Dog had the drive. Bill Watts had the drive, and Bill Watts could take a guy like Junkyard Dog and make him a star. Um, and some guys you can teach how to do exciting things, but it's another thing to be able to connect. It's another thing to be able to get people to want to dance in the ring with you and want to come up and shake your hand and want to get your autograph. And Dog just looked like somebody. He looked like a star when he would go through an airport or walk into a building or walk into a room. He was one of those guys that had that charisma. And I really don't know that you can teach it. You can tell people to study the guys who had the charisma and see if there's any quirk you can take, but it can't be manufactured. You have to learn how to use it and make it your own.
Dr. Tom should be in the Hall of Fame just for his willingness to play the body dominant character Zip.
That was a rib the whole way, man. That whole Zip thing was a complete rib. So I wasn't necessarily as willing as I should have been either. But that's another day.
Speaking of ribs, any cool ribs involving JYD?
No, Dog. When I was around him, there was no ribs. The only rib I think he did to me was putting me in the wheelbarrow my first couple matches at taping, and put me through the double doors and let me sit there for a minute before they wondered if the kid's going to figure it out and stay there or get up and try and find his way back to where we're dressing. I mean, it's one of the, if you've ever been in a TV studio, usually the guys would dress, in the offices of the crew or whatever at the studio. And some of them could be pretty much amazed to get back. You go to one part of the studio and you have to find your way back. Well, hell, it's my first time wrestling in a TV studio and I didn't know anything. So it took me a little while to get back to where I was dressing, but I finally did.
What did you think of JYD's Big Daddy Ritter gimmick in Stampede? His ladder match with Jake Roberts was fun to watch.
I never got to see JYD in Stampede. But that Stampede Wrestling Northwest was a place, excuse me, that young guys would go to learn the craft. And I'm sure he did a great job. I'm sure he and Jake both uh, did a great job of Stampede Wrestling because they were both young, learning, and wanting to get out there. So I never saw the Big Daddy Ritter gimmick, but it makes perfect sense.
Vince and Bruce both say they want to induct you into the Hall of Fame, but you have to pick just one. Who do you pick? Vince McMahon and Bruce Prichard, of course, who we're referring to there.
Right.
Who would you want to induct you between those two?
Who would I want to induct between Vince and Bruce?
Yep.
Well, Bruce, just because I know he'd at least spell the name right.
Yes, good point. Good point.
Thank you.
Dr. Tom, do you think that JYD's wrestling career ended much sooner than he would have liked it to?
Probably so, because he was still wrestling when he passed away. I think too. He was doing shots here and there, but I don't know. Who knows what he was thinking? He might have been ready to just say stop. He's ready to stop. I mean, I never thought I would get to the point where I didn't necessarily care about getting in the ring anymore and wrestling a match. And then I did. And it's like, now I understand. Because, you get to a point where, or some people get to a point where it's time. And maybe Dog got there, or maybe he still wanted to wrestle.
Always heard Bill Watts wasn't a nice man, yet he helped JYD tremendously. What's the real take on Bill Watts?
Well, let me say this, because I found when I went through my times and territories, and I came in to finally work for Bill Watts. And Bill Watts was the booker and the owner when I did the TV with Boyd Pierce. Bill just wanted you to do your job. And if you could do your job, if you loved wrestling, if you didn't mind traveling 3,000 miles a week, which I didn't back then, I had nothing else. Wrestling was my life. Bill Watts is the guy who turned me heel. He allowed me to be something else on TV. And it was more my nature to be a heel. I was you have to be an extension of who you really are. And there's a lot of circumstances that I didn't smile a lot, and I had a chip on my shoulder, and I wasn't sure who I could trust, if anybody at all. And Bill Watts came to me one day and said, "Have you ever thought about being a heel?" And I said, "Every day." He said, "I see that. We're going to turn you heel at TV." So Bill could yell. He could be demanding. At the same time, all he's wanting you to do is the very best that you can do, and he wants to get that out of you. And he was that kind of coach. He was that kind of promoter. He was that kind of guy. He inspired some people, and Jim Cornette will tell you that's where he got his wrestling education, boot camp. And that's the coolest thing in the world if you love wrestling, to have somebody who loves it just as much, if not more than you, and is giving you the opportunity to go out and do your thing. So Louisiana territory was always a big man territory. Then when Bill Dundee came in with the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, and Jim Cornette, those five guys set that territory on fire. And yes, Michael Hayes and the Freebirds did it before too, but it had been down. And Bill Watts saw the change. He wasn't sold on it in the beginning, but once he saw the houses start drawing and see his audience change, I mean, he was smart enough to understand that you can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bill Watts, and I never had a cross word with him.
Did you, well, obviously you didn't see the documentary yet, but did you believe that he was racist at all? Because Teddy Long who, by the way, you're not saying he's making up, not making up, but heard through some circles. I don't know if Teddy Long is the most believable person in the world
Right.
to go to, but that's neither here nor there. But he was saying that Watts is racist, and JYD told him he's racist, and all this other stuff. So, I mean, we've heard Watts' story for years, but was he racist, and was he ever racist towards JYD?
Not that I know
Didn't seem like it on like his programming.
No, he was his top babyface.
Right.
And so how does that make you racist if you push the guy? And
Teddy says that JYD told him he heard Grizzly Smith and Bill Watts saying stuff behind his back, behind the scenes. But Teddy Long's heard this, and nobody else heard this, from JYD. So I don't know.
I mean, nobody really knows except Dog and Watts, and if he heard things or
Watts
not.
obviously denied it. He wouldn't come on the show, but he denied it.
No. And I don't. Again, I don't know Bill Watts personal thoughts on being racist, but I do know that he. One thing he always said is as long as you can draw money, the only color he cares about is green. Now, if that's true or not, I don't know, but the proof is in the pudding. Dog was the top babyface for years.
And when he was in WCW, Ron Simmons became the first ever black WCW world champion. Really, first black world champion.
Right. So that doesn't fall in line with being racist, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people that get second, third-hand information and don't know the whole story. Man, I just heard something Monday night, and I don't want to spread the rumor because it was debunked, but someone asked me about this rumor they heard, and I flat out said, I haven't heard that. That doesn't sound right. Well, then they called somebody else and got the full story. Instead of going the horse's ass, they went the horse's mouth. And so, stories get built up and you can say whatever you want, but I can only judge by their actions. And Bill Watts was happy to put JYD on top, I'm sure.
Won't Biscuits, if you were booking JYD to be a World Tag Team Champion, who would you pair him with?
Ron Simmons.
Oh,
definitely. JYD and Ron Simmons. That's a kick-ass team right there. Or
John
even Butch Reed.
Butch Reed, yeah.
Yeah, Butch Reed. I agree. Butch and Dog would have been great.
Mulder said every kid he knew had the JYD and Hogan figures. Yes, definitely. Same here. Those were great. He says, of course, doing my best. Says, of course, I had the JYD figure. Yes.
Of course.
I feel like everybody had them.
Well, as well you should.
Did the Body Donnas have action figures? Cloudy would have been a huge seller.
No, and I don't know if Cloudy would have been a huge seller or not, but
I won't say
Body Donnas didn't get shit.
I won't say what it is, but Cloudy, who I spoke to recently, has a business in my area.
You won't say what it is. Is it illicit?
No. I just, in case, I guess maybe I don't think he wants anything to do with wrestling, so I don't think he wants people like looking him up and being like, "Oh, that's Cloudy," and then go into his business or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. He said that he nothing to do with wrestling anymore. So,
well, that was with Candido that he was that he got brought in anyway. I think.
Right, Jersey boy. Yep.
Yes.
Magazine. There were two variants of the JYD action figure by LJN, one with the red tights and one with the white tights. Each of them had the cool collar and the chain, so that was more money for JYD. There you go. Yeah,
good for him.
Plus they had the little ones too, the little rubber. Not only the big LJNs, but the little tiny rubber ones too.
Right. All those guys were making bank back then.
Look at this. This story, I don't know if it's true. Just going to put a disclaimer on that. But Bo James is saying JYD lived with him for a while in 92 and 93. He was a great friend. I talked to him a week before he died. I still have his business card on my desk. Do you believe that he lived with JYD?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, my God.
I believe JYD did live with him.
Amazing.
Yeah. yeah, there's circumstances that go along with that, but Bo has now turned his house into an NWA house. No
Oh.
wrestlers allowed. Yeah,
He said the only ribs a dog liked were barbecue.
yeah. Ribs are funny when they're funny, but when you're on the road that much, I mean, you got to have a reason to rib or at least have fun. And I'm sure there was some times like that, but for the most part, uh, guys knew, man, it's tough enough on the road without somebody messing with you all the time.
Just learned yesterday that JYD ended up broke. Do you advise young wrestlers how to be careful with their money and maybe save for retirement?
I think any young wrestler who's going to go to, let me just say WWE. I believe WWE now has classes, or they were starting them after I left FCW about how to handle your finances and things like this, and that's a good part uh, that WWE does today. I don't know what AEW does as far as counseling their young guys. I know Dustin Rhodes at his wrestling school. His wife goes over the finances and how to pay your taxes and do things like this, how to save money. And um, I would advise anybody to save money because a lot of people, never thought it would end, and all of a sudden it does. So, a lot of guys got into the business with the impression that whatever happens, happens, and that's an adventure. Uh, whatever the word I'm looking for is, it's an adventurous attitude, and you're living for today. You don't care about tomorrow. But these days, you got to realize people are living longer, and it is business. It's not what it used to be. So the WWPC is taking that step and trying to help these guys so they don't wind up broke, so they don't wind up just being destitute. It's a terrible thing to be sometimes. Well, not sometimes. Hell, it's a terrible thing to be anytime.
Right.
But it's sad when it happens.
ATF says, I suspect Hawk from the Road Warriors consumed a drug at least once. I would probably say yes.
Well, at
For
least
sure.
once. I mean, once again, it was that kind of business back then. It was nothing like it doesn't resemble anything of today. The only thing even remotely close is it's still done in a ring, I think.
Going back to JYD tag partners, Game Over agrees with you. Ron Simmons and JYD would be a
Yep.
great team. Mulder says, what about Rufus R. Jones?
I don't know about
Great
Rufus.
idea.
Yeah, I don't know about Rufus being a good tag partner for Dog, but he would have made it work. I mean, one thing I saw Rufus R. Jones before he
Again.
was Rufus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was Buster Lloyd in Texas, in Houston. Then he was Rufus R. in Amarillo. That's where they changed his name. But he had charisma and he was an entertaining performer, but he wasn't. He could have made anything work. Let me say that. I just don't know that they would have made a great tag team.
His son was pretty damn charismatic, too.
Yes, he was.
The Slickster.
The Slickster. Yes, sir.
Yes. Phil, in some ways, JYD was the original Godfather. He not only got the honeys, but they gave him the money. Talk about the ultimate fan experience. LOL. Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Well, yeah.
Come aboard
I
the
could,
Ho train.
I could see that. I could certainly see that. And in Louisiana, uh, in the business back then, it was terrible.
He's backing that up. He's backing up that claim there.
Okay.
About him going on to pimp, basically. Hello, Dan.
Well, Bo would know.
Ragu says Dino Bravo was never WWE champion either, but a huge star in Canada, yet Dark Side of the Ring blamed a lack of WWE belts on racism. Eye rolls. Interesting.
Why would they blame lack of WWE belts on racism? I don't understand that part.
I don't know.
at all. Bobby Lashley was a champion, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
I don't get that part, but maybe it'll be explained.
That guy, The Rock.
That
He was
guy.
there. Mulder says, "Is it true that Tammy no-showed Smoky Mountain dates because of recurring sore throat and full stomach?"
No, she no. I failed to see the humor. No, she came because she knew she would. She had her medicine there.
Now, Tony Atlas, by the way, was a pretty big part of the documentary. So ATF here has an interesting question for you. Would you rather spend a month with Tony Atlas or a month with explosive diarrhea?
I like
Ooh.
Tony. I mean, I really do. Uh,
He
but
was talking about, hanging out with Dog and doing stuff, but obviously he's got a history in the business with Dog. It goes back quite a ways.
how far did Tony go into hanging out with Dog?
He was just a couple stories of going into his foot fetish and stuff too. He was kind of going off in a rare rarefied air there with weird stories.
Well, I don't know. Tony has some pretty interesting stories, but I don't know about that explosive diarrhea for a month. That'd be terrible.
Yeah. Sad to see that he ended up broke. JYD, yes, for sure.
Yeah, that is. It's sad to see anybody ending up broke like that.
Especially all the money they made, at that period of time in the
Well,
WWF. I know he made it pretty good money because they were talking about it in Mid South. He made a lot more than a lot of the other guys. But WWF, I mean, he quadrupled his pay.
yeah, and it is. It's never going to end. You think it'll never end, and then all of a sudden it does. And before you know it, if you have saved any money, then you're going to have to use that. So yeah, it's sad when anybody winds up like that, especially as you said when they've made that much money and didn't foresee the future or didn't think they'd be here for the future and didn't really take care of it.
What do you think of the Snowman and how he was basically trying to replace JYD? Did the fans react to him, or how did the fans really react to the Snowman in Mid South? It seemed like Jake the Snake Roberts was not a fan of the Snowman.
No, and there was no replacing JYD, not that soon and not that fast. No, Snowman was no JYD.
They tried Brickhouse Brown, Butch Reed, the Snowman. They tried a bunch of guys, and they all
Well,
didn't
yeah,
work.
but once again, that's when you can look at it and say it's not just because you put on a headlock, or it's not just because you can have a Corona or a toupee. Doesn't matter. If you don't have that connection with the crowd, if you don't have that charisma, if you don't have that it factor, it really doesn't matter. Butch Reed was great. I thought
Yeah,
Brickhouse was pretty damn good too. Snowman, nice guy, but I never saw it. I never saw it in Snowman either. And I think it was because the Dog connected and he knew how to reach out from that television screen and get people involved and to come out and pay money. It's one thing to watch it on TV from the comfort of your own home. But to go out, and back then, I guess tickets might have been, I don't know, ten bucks, whatever it was. You're paying, you're coming out of your house, you got to sit on either a steel chair ringside or you're going to sit on those wooden chairs in these arenas. And it takes somebody special to get you to want to pay money to come out and do this and watch him. And Snowman just couldn't get it done. Neither could anybody else who came after Dog.
what about JYD teaming up with Akeem from the Polar Bear? I kind of like that team. That would be pretty good.
I would have been cool. They would have made it work. Akeem was all right.
Why isn't Dr. Tom on more episodes of Dark Side of the Ring? Ratings would go through the roof. You've been on quite a bunch this season.
Well, I've been on two.
Yes.
So,
2 of the 5, I believe, that they've had, right?
who? 2
of the 5 episodes you've been on. That's a pretty good percentage.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll be on the Adrian Adonis. I had a story about Adrian Adonis that we went over. I don't know if I'll be on that one either. But it was interesting. Those guys are cool. Go in and you talk about some stuff and see what happens.
It isn't it interesting, really, to me, but Phil puts it's interesting that Bill Watts called him the snowman in lieu of JYD's drug problem.
Well, we can look at all the messages, the hidden messages, the hidden secrets, and all that stuff. But for whatever reason, yeah, Bill thought, I guess, snowman sounded good.
Who was he? An ex-football player, snowman?
I don't know what he did. I knew him when I really got to. I didn't know him that well, but when I got to know him, it was in Memphis, and he just didn't strike me as a guy who had the love for wrestling or had the charisma or had that certain factor that you're looking for when you want to see a guy go out, and Dog would get into it. I don't know that Snowman knew how to get into it. He tried, but it was it just wasn't going to work.
Marty is the season finale, meaning Marty Jannetty. Dr. Tom will be on that episode as well. You're going to be on the Marty Jannetty episode?
I don't think so.
Marty. Oh, that would be great.
Yeah,
JYD did play some ball, yes. Bo James says Ritter, a.k.a. Sylvester Ritter, and Norvell Austin were a good team known as the Junkyard Dogs in Knoxville in 1977. Norvell Austin was the original JYD. Interesting.
That makes sense, too. Norvell was a hell of a worker. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense. You know, Dog went around a few places before he got to Mid-South and hit it big.
Now, Dr. Tom, before we talk about your book, there's a few just random questions here that popped up. Nothing to do with anything, just random. So, Chad Dick was on a live podcast about an hour ago. He spoke highly of you. Any stories of the Dicks?
Chad Dick. Wow.
Remember the Dicks? Yeah.
Yeah, the Dicks. Tank Tolan was the other one. Chad and what was Tank's name in the Dicks?
Chad Dick and good question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
okay. No, Chad was like a lot of guys who I think wasn't sure how to fit in, and
Chad Dick and James Dick.
Chad James, the Dicks. Okay. I got you. Well, no, Chad was a nice enough guy, just different. Say that.
Do you think the Hands of Stone Ronnie Garvin is the best wrestler of all time due to living in Canada, which is close to Michigan and the greatest college and pro sports teams of all time?
Well, I don't know that Ronnie is the best wrestler of all time due to living in Canada, but and Michigan is the greatest college pro sports teams of all time. I don't know that's up for debate, but Ronnie was a hell of a worker. He was believable, and he got people into it as well, especially in this Knoxville territory. He was a badass. So, I mean, people believed in him. So
he also throws out their greater American sports moment when Charles Woodson beat Peyton Manning for the Heisman, 1997, or when the Pistons beat the Spurs for the NBA title. The Pistons actually beat the Lakers for the NBA title. The next year, the Spurs actually defeated the Pistons. So,
well,
off there on that one.
Tell you what, the only other sport I watch is college ball, and I'm an Alabama fan. So I don't know anything about the Spurs or Pistons and Peyton Manning. Okay, that's okay. I'm a wrestler. I'm just a wrestler.
Here is the final question about JYD, who obviously died way too soon in 1998. He was only 45 years old. yeah, legend of business, charisma out the yin yang. But interesting question here to end it. Wait a minute. Is Junkyard Dog related to John Ritter? That is a good
He's his
question.
second cousin, twice removed. Yeah,
You know,
knew
not
that
that
for a
long ago, I
fact.
went back. I think it's on Pluto. I watched every episode of Three's Company. Man, what a show! You can't do that show today because of some of the nature of it. But
You can't
man,
do All in the Family. You can't do the Jeffersons. You can't do Sanford and Son. You can't do.
Roper's gay jokes. Oh my God, they would
Yeah,
kill Roper
yeah,
today if he did
yeah.
that stuff. Oh
Canceled,
my
canceled,
God. Oh
canceled.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
So,
Forget about it.
mm.
Great show though. My God, it's hilarious. Thank you, Jason. Yes, and of course
Awesome.
Barbara and Ibsen asking where they can get the book, Doctor
Well,
Tom.
thank you for asking, Barbara. You can get that book if you go to jpwrestlingacademy.com. We are starting our summer session next Monday, July 3rd. And it's going to be a hot summer here in Knoxville. It's actually in La Follette where we train these days. But if you go to that website, jpwrestlingacademy.com, you can check on the training tab at the top of the page, and it'll take you there. You order the book.
Interestingly enough, Dango, aka Dirty Dango, aka Fandango, recently posted a picture of your action figure. Says the only one he owns.
No, he said it's the only toy he owns. But Dango and Heath Slater, too. Kurt Hawkins said, he said he bought some for the boys. I thought he was ribbing. But he sent Heath one. He said Dango one. I don't know who else he sent one to. But that's awesome. So
Wow,
thank you, Kurt.
damn.
If you hear this, thank you very much. That was awesome.
Yeah,
I had
nice.
some discussions with Kurt last year, or no, not last year. Yeah, a couple years ago, right when we did the figures deal,
Yep.
and he was going to do these other figures, and it all happened all at the same time, and so it finally happened where they were. I thought we were going to come a time. There was going to come a time when they said, we can't do it anymore." But Kurt, when he did it, when Figures finally released the deal, he bought some figures and sent them to the boys. They sent me pictures. That was nice, very cool.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Anything else going on in this crazy world?
We got a lot of stuff going on in this crazy world, John, but I'm just getting ready for summertime to start on July 3rd at JPWA.
Nice. Susan's looking forward to seeing you in Memphis in July.
Oh, awesome. Okay. That's, I will be visiting Championship Wrestling in Memphis, and I'll tell you the date right here.
And you got a signing in New York, too, Ibsen says.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Virtual.
Virtual signing. I will be in Memphis on the 15th. That's a Saturday, July 15th. And I think I'm there on the 16th, too. I'm not sure. But I know I'm there the 15th, definitely.
Nice. They would love to see you in Syracuse, Rochester, Albany. Nice. Nice.
I like Syracuse, Rochester.
Be nice. Be a cool little getaway there. That's a little too far north, but yeah, that'd be nice.
It's all right with me.
All right,
Nothing is too far north for me, John.
everybody needs to get your
That's just not go
figure.
south.
True.
Huh? Yeah.
Everybody needs to get your figure and your book.
Awesome. Yes, they do. You can get the figures at Figures Toy Company. Just Google. It's got Brett Armstrong just came out with the figure too. Savio Vega, Mr. Hughes. Gosh, I don't remember who else, but there's a whole crew of guys that for the first time have action figures. So I think it's very cool.
Nice. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Take You to School with Dr. Tom Pritchard. We'll see you next week, folks.